Today's segment of Oh Brother is sponsored by Organic Harvest Market and Nutrition Center, Birmingham's largest family-owned natural foods market. Visit them on the web at www.orgharvest.com.
So southern, they'll get up for you for nothing.
It's finally not raining. It's rained straight for like 4 months.
And luckily now we have
6 months. How many months has it been raining? It feels like 2 years. Has it been 2 years?
It feels like it's been at least 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, it has rained a lot, and it's finally not, Reed. It's Monday here on Oh Brother. I'm Will Lochamy along with Reed Lochamy. We're recording from the Brandon Brown and the Country Western Delight Studios.
Hey, Will, you know who I hear here in the studio is your beautiful daughter, Lila.
She is here.
And I mentioned that not only because listeners may be able to hear her a little. See, there we go.
She's getting a little
Lila.
fussy. But
But also, I'm not surprised because you were very talented. Lila is, I think, you know what I'm talking about. We have noticed a particular talent. I don't want to say anything about it right now, but I think in the future we may need to have a segment about Lila. She has a peculiar talent that I think is very unusual for what is she now, 3 months old basically?
She's 3.5 months.
And I think it's pretty unusual for a 3.5-month-old to be able to do what she's able to do. We will do a segment, I think, in the future.
You don't want to talk about her? You don't want to say it right now?
I don't want people to. No, I don't want to ruin it. But we're gonna have.
She's
a
about
segment.
to do it. No.
But we're gonna bring her in one day and let her demonstrate her talent on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think she's not in the mood right now.
Yeah. Well, it is Monday. It's a brand new day. It's a brand new week. It's starting to feel maybe a little bit like fall. It's not so muggy, and I'm happy about that, and I'm also happy about the fact that we have some interesting things to discuss on today's To Discuss Monday, which is what we do every Monday.
Yeah.
Now, normally we just have like one topic, but today we have two, and they are as follows. Two things that have sort of been big in the news. Well, one has been big in the news, and one that people might have missed, but is something that people in this area in central Alabama probably are aware of.
I didn't know it until you pointed out.
Well, let's go and talk.
This,
Here's the first. We're going to talk about Richard Scrushy in a minute, but first, let's talk briefly about the fact. Well, do you know when you drive like down to the beach or down, if you go from Birmingham down towards Montgomery, and there are two things I can think of that you can count on seeing from the interstate that are interesting. What are they?
Okay, one around exit 200.
Yeah.
There is a rebel flag, which I think we've talked about this once on the show.
We have.
Before. A huge rebel flag.
Well, now sometimes it's real tiny. We talked about
right,
that. Yeah.
when they're fixing the big, huge one. But anyway, it is this by the Sons of the Confederacy have put it up or whatever.
And I really kind of think it's an embarrassment to our state.
It's totally embarrassing.
Yeah.
But we're not the only ones that have it. I mean, there are several around the country, I think, by this group.
Yeah.
And then there's also a piece of property somewhere in between Birmingham and Montgomery, Alabama. And on this property, on the side of the interstate, there's like a big, one of those wheels, one of those water wheels, which is pretty cool to look at. Mm-hmm. And then he's got two huge signs up. One that says, "Go to church or the devil will get you."
That's
and it's got a picture of the devil.
That's right.
And then more recently, like in the last decade, he's put one up that says, "America, love it or leave it."
That's right, yeah. Now, and I think anybody who's driven along I-65, especially if you're coming back up north on I-65 is when you really see these signs, knows what we're talking about. Well, here's the bad news. The man who put those signs up, who's responsible for them, has in fact passed away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and let's just talk real quickly about this guy because he's sort of a fixture in Alabama, or at least his signs are. His name was W.S. Billy Newell, so it looks like he goes by Billy.
That sounds like that'd be his name.
Yeah, a few interesting things. It says here Newell was the construction contractor who helped build portions of I-65 and I-85.
Really?
So if you've ever wondered who he was, he owned a construction business. Apparently, and later one of his family members is quoted as having said that he had no hobbies. All he thought about all the time and just loved his construction business, and that was that. The other two things that he loved, not surprising, would be, or not loved, but he was very religious, they said. That's not surprising.
Sure.
And also loved America.
Very obvious.
And
he it wasn't the same old sign forever. I mean, recently it had the signs redone.
He'd updated him a little bit. When Lucy Baxley ran for governor, he changed one of them. The "Go to the Church of the Devil Will Get You" was turned into a "We Love Lucy" sign because he was
really?
a big, he and Lucy Baxley were close. And also another thing, I don't know this for sure. They didn't say this in an article, but one of the things I think he probably hated. Can you guess what it is?
Minorities?
No.
What?
People fishing on his property. Because if you notice, he also has no fishing signs.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
no
right.
fishing,
And a big lake there, a pond.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, unfortunately, he died. He was 87 years old. And interesting side note before we move on to our next topic, the picture of the devil on the Go to Church of the Devil Will Get You was once on a building in Prattville on Highway 31.
Really? I bet you if you Google that, I bet you can find pictures of this. Because people, I'm sure, stop all the time and take pictures.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of Alabama that has unfortunately gone by the wayside. He has passed away, and we're sorry to hear it. When I first saw those signs, I thought this is kind of an embarrassment, almost like the Confederate flag. Then, of course, the Confederate flag thing came along and made this look like less of an embarrassment. And I've gotten to where now I kind of find those signs endearing. I kind of like them.
Of course, they're endearing. Yeah, and I don't mind. I don't mind the signs at all.
Yeah.
I think they're lots of fun.
All right, so Will, listen, with the time we have left in today's segment, let's talk about this real quickly. The Richard Scrushy, which everyone knows, he is the disgraced former CEO of Health South.
Right. This is one of those big stories, much like the company in Houston. Enron. Yeah, I was almost forgotten.
Yeah.
This was one of those big, huge companies that had been bluffing their numbers.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden went down, and everybody went down with them. I mean, as far as everyone lost their retirement, and if you had stock
shareholders,
in Health South, forget about it.
Yeah, everybody went down except for Richard Scrushy, who got out unscathed and then wound up actually going to prison for a different, unrelated thing having to do with Don Siegelman. This story has been going on for years and years and years, one way or another, as Paul Feinbaum mentioned on our show a couple of weeks ago when we had him on. Now Richard Scrushy, indeed, it's caught up with him, and he has nothing, literally nothing, because they just auctioned off, get ready for this number, 19 is my understanding of his cars.
Good for him.
19 cars.
Good for 19 cars of the people that worked at Health South.
Let me look into the future and quote one of our guests coming up on Thursday and say, what a jackleg to have 19 cars.
Listen, and he also had planes. I mean, that huge lake house he's got down to Lake Martin. Yeah. Open up the garage, there was an airplane in there that you could just float out onto the water and take off with.
Well, let's real quickly, we have just a minute or two. I just want to go over the highlights. We know someone, we won't say who it was, but we know someone who happened to go to the auction. Apparently there were about 1,500 people there.
Why were we not there?
Yeah, we should have gone. Anyway, just real quickly, a few highlights here of the cars that were auctioned off and what they went for. It says here that it looks like the one that went for the most money was a 1929 Caddy Phaeton or Phaeton. I don't know what that is. I guess it's a Cadillac. Went for $172,000. The least expensive one, Will, if we gonna scan through here, it looks like the least expensive one maybe was a
Suburban, huh?
$4,500 1993 Suburban. What in the world was Richard Scrushy doing with a 1993 Suburban?
Hiding paperwork, probably.
I don't. Probably so. Other interesting things to note here. There was a bulletproof BMW 7 Series.
I'm surprised these all weren't bulletproof.
Yeah, they really needed to be. I'm guessing he picked that one up a little bit later.
2006 Mini Cooper went for $26,000. That doesn't seem like a good deal.
The person who sent us this listen, who was at the auction, apparently said that when that one sold for $26,000, someone in the audience screamed out, "Buy a new one." To whoever it was that bought this, why in the world would you buy a used? I guess maybe just so you could say that I have Richard Scrushy's
And then
Mini.
Joe Wilson yelled at that person, "You lie!
You lie!" This reminds me a little bit of George Costanza. Remember, he had a car he bought that used to belong to who? Do you remember?
Kind of.
Oh, no. And now the name has.
Look at you.
I can't believe I've forgotten this for a second. Wait a second. It is Angelina Jolie's dad.
Oh,
his
right.
name is.
Yeah.
Come on.
Voight. John Voight.
John Voight. Thank you. Yeah, remember he had a car.